Welcome back, listeners. You've once again tuned in to the Living Institute podcast about the power of diversity in business. This is our second episode, and we're still going to talk about unconscious bias, but this time it will take a turn. We will uncover what we cover in business. We again have Casper joining us, as well as Louise from the fintech world. And I think I will give the floor to Casper once I've said hello to you. Hello and welcome.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Hello, thanks for having us. Yeah, nice to be back.
No problem. So, Casper, what is it that we cover and what is it that we would like to uncover?
Okay, so first of all, we have to understand that the problem with diversity, the whole talk about diversity, is that it's not really about diversity to begin with. It's about understanding our human tendency to seek out people who look like us, who are similar to us. This is what social scientists calls homophilia, our love for sameness, basically. What that does is that it shapes us in certain ways, or rather we shape ourselves to fit in, to conform with the group, to not stand out. And of course we do this in order to experience psychological trust and safety and be safe within the group. But that means when we talk about diversity, so why do we want a diverse group of people in our team? Well, we want a diverse group of people because it gives the possibility to have critical questions asked, to flip over all the stones, make sure, that we make good decisions, smart decisions. It's a problem if you have a group of people who think that their personality doesn't exactly fit into this kind of group, so they have to, cover up certain aspects of their identity in order to fit in, because this means that they will be less likely to contribute with their unique perspective, especially if that perspective is critical towards the general opinion. So social scientists have come up with this term called covering. Covering is basically what we do in order to turn down aspects of our identity in order to fit in and not be excluded from the group. Now, we cover in the way we appear, our self-presentation, our dress and makeup, what have you, with the group of people that we are associated. Perhaps if I'm a gay person, I would tend not to be associated with other gay people because in order for stigmatization to happen and negative stereotypes and so on. So there are different areas where we cover up our identity, and that's important to realize when we talk about diversity.
Okay, and that's, of course, not good for business because then you minimize the diversity and the different opinions. So, Louise, is that something that you can recognize from your own world and your own everyday?
Yes, I think especially in a world such as fintech. Currently I work in a large IT program in one of the largest banks in the Nordics, where it is a very diverse group of people, both from if you look at their education and the area that they work in, but also from a nationality perspective. So I think we have 42 different nationalities in 6 different locations. And that can obviously be a challenge where we have a lot of IT developers who has their own way of being and dressing that is like socks and sandals and long uncombed hair, which is okay, but you can definitely see that as soon as they step into the main office in Copenhagen, Helsinki or Stockholm, that they tend to change the way they dress, they tend to change the way that they speak. And same from my own personal perspective. If I go out to any of the other main offices, I do tend to dress up just a little bit. It's more of a blazer than a sweater, just to be taken serious in a way and to fit in with all the other leaders in the bank, so to speak. So I definitely see that is an area where some of those diversities are being minimized a little bit, and that's when it comes to the way that we dress as such. But then what I think is even more relevant is the way that we act, especially when we come into a very diverse group and we're in a meeting. Personally, I can have a tendency to speak up very much and have very strong opinions about certain topics, and I would like to do it my way. But if I am in a meeting with, for example, Finnish people, now we also can take into cultural diversity quite a lot. They have a tendency to speak up a little bit less. They are a very quiet nationality and they want to accommodate and they're not as direct. And I do tend to tone down my attitude very, very much when I speak to a group of Finnish people, which in some cases makes it more difficult for me to get my point across. So yes, I definitely can see that you do want to fit in, obviously, if you want to. But I mean, there is also an aspect of collaboration in that, right? You do feel that if I get along well with these people, the collaboration will be better. Hence, I try to mimic the way that they talk, the way that they dress, with the assumption that that will make the collaboration better, which is just not always the case.
No, because if you listen to our first episode, we were talking about the guessing brain, the assuming brain, which makes these leaps that it might be better if I dress this way or I tone down this, because this is what the brain tells you, which might not be reality. Am I mistaken here, or?
No, I think you're right, and I think, Louisa, your examples really are very good in illuminating for this problem with why we cover up. Because, of course, we have to cover up in a certain sense. We can't, I mean, in my spare time, I play the drums. This doesn't mean that I bring my drums to work. So in a certain sense, I cover that up, you could say. You could take it to the more extreme and have, say, people with criminal tendencies, they don't bring that to work, or hopefully not at least, right? So we all cover up. We have to in order to be part of a group, right? So we sacrifice part of ourselves to belong. So in that sense, covering up is, of course, necessary, as you mentioned, Louisa. But the problem is, as you mentioned, and we do have a guessing brain. So, for instance, when we meet new people, we immediately screen them, to see if they fit patterns that our unconscious brain recognizes. Well, I'm sitting here with two women, so, what kind of types are you? My unconscious brain is thinking, well, you must be like this, or you must be like that. And so I try to adjust it, but I do so unconsciously because I have bias. I mean, you look like people I've seen before, and I should probably speak this way or behave this way. We all do that, right? So this is our guessing brain, always trying us to do the right thing, but basically guessing. And this is what we do when we cover up. We think we are part of a group of people where we have to behave in a certain way, and hence we cover up what is not beneficial to that. And this is where it gets problematic, because then we start to fear that if we really express who we are, if we really say what we want, then we might be excluded.
All right. Thank you so much for your input, Casper. I have one final question. Can you briefly just say what is good to cover, what is all right to cover at your workplace, and what is bad for business? What can't you cover?
Right. So, in terms of what might be good to cover, I don't know. I mean, I would say if it's not part of your company values or part of your company policy, then of course we all cover up. We have to cover up parts of ourselves. We can't bring everything that we are to work all the time. For instance, if your organization, it's not a political organization, then it's probably not relevant for me to walk around, discussing my political views all the time. In that sense, we can expect people to cover up their political views in this sense. However, let's say you have a company or an organization that say that, women who are new mothers should have equal rights and be viewed as equally competent as any other person, right? But for some women in the company, they feel it's necessary for them not to talk about their new family. They don't show pictures of them to people, and they get anxious whenever people ask them about it, because they fear that if they do talk about their new child or new family, whatever it might be, then they will be viewed as less competent, not committed to their work and so forth. Then you have a problem, because then people are covering up something which the company policy or the company values actually dictate they shouldn't cover up, right? Because they should have equal rights. So in that sense, it's a bad thing to cover it up. And you as a director or CEO or manager or whatever, you need to be aware of that kind of covering, because it goes against the established values of your organization.
Thank you, Casper. That was really interesting. And thank you, listeners, for staying tuned to this second episode of The Power of Diversity in Business. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.